Hello, my dear viewers, and welcome back. Today, I have a very special treat for you all. This is going to be a very big day for the channel. Now, as most of you know, last Halloween, I did a review of the game Demonophobia. Well, shortly after I did those reviews of Demonophobia and Splatter School, I actually received a message from the developer of the games. And after doing some digging, I was able to confirm that this is indeed the real 237 and not someone simply pretending to be him. So I actually asked him if he would be willing to do an interview, given how mysterious he is and how little is known about this dev. I thought it would be a good thing for not only the channel, but for him to be able to finally come out of the shadows, which is something he has had planned for a long time. And he said yes. Now, I want to offer a short little disclaimer before we begin the interview. Now, it is important to note that 237 is foreign and English is not his main language. He can speak some English, but it's very broken, and he still often has to use translators to be able to speak with people like me. Now, I did the best I could under the circumstances, so please bear with me if it seems like some of his responses feel a little bit broken. Please understand it's because he's foreign and his English isn't the best. And one more thing I want to do before this begins. Now, there is some speculation that the person whom I am interviewing is not the real 237. Now, I did enough digging to confirm that this is indeed the real 237. However, I and 237 have even said, we're not going to tell you what to think. You can come to your own conclusions based on this interview if you believe that this is the real 237 or not. And I wanted to be able to make this interview as a way to shatter a lot of myths and misconceptions about Mr. 237 and his games. For example, one of the biggest ones being that people actually unironically thought the guy was dead. But that's enough with the introduction, so without further ado, I give you my interview with the game dev 237. Please enjoy. Why did you choose the name 237, and does this name hold any significance to you?
I often go out on the street, notice these three numbers, and I just could not find a suitable nickname, and that's how 237 appeared. So nothing happened.
What is your favorite horror movie?
Well, it's the Busan Train and the Terrible Will of the Gods. Great movies. I like them. In Demonophobia, there was supposed to be a zombie, but I abandoned them because they are not very suitable.
What made you want to get into video game development?
As time's old game. To example, the same Silent Hill or the good game may not release that there little was cruelty or blood. And of course, rapidly growing computer industry, where there emerged more opportunities, and decided to play around and now evolved in these games, which there is now. And all that accumulated in my head, I poured out on the development.
Would you say that Pyramid Head was an inspiration for the creation of your infamous Butcher character?
Yes. With this debate, not, and of course, the Texas Massacre Chainsaw 2 has left footprints in his character. I do not mean the X, and that he, the entire rat piece of skin, and so same when Sakura hides on their table, and their Hank's film face. This too, so say, was a small reference on this film.
Did you go to school to learn about video game development?
No, I'm self-taught. I climbed all sorts of sites with little instructions, or found something myself. By the poke method, shall we say.
As you know, I described Demonophobia as a very solid survival horror game. However, I was very shocked to find out that you also ended up making Splatter School, which I felt was a very poorly made horror game, and I can't really understand why someone who made such a good first game ended up also making a very poorly made game.
If you think that Demonophobia, this might the most the first game, this not so. Until it was still 3 game, which I have not uploaded, and then already emerged all the spells of Demonophobia.
Oh, I see now. So you made the first couple of projects before Demonophobia. Were these projects just never released to the public because they were just you experimenting?
That's right, but they didn't differ much by any plot or timing of the game, just quickly made for a tryout.
One common criticism and myth I see being spread about your game is that Demonophobia is a hentai game. Would you say that this is accurate?
No, the sexual nature was conceived, but only as realism does it properly cut the main character where it should be visible or the clothes button out, and so on about hentai. I wouldn't say, well, maybe for everyone. Everyone has different tastes.
Makes sense. I can see, in the case of many of your horror games, how these themes could be misunderstood, which is very unfortunate because people go into your game with the wrong mindset, thinking that it's some kind of game made by a deviant pervert, or that it's some kind of edgy meme Newgrounds game or something. I personally appreciated your dedication to realism and creating these very horrific levels of imagery to kind of add to the suffering of the main character, because at the end of the day, these are horror games, and I heavily respected you for pushing the envelope the way that you did, actually having the guts to push boundaries. Now, when you revealed that you would be making a direct sequel to Demonophobia known as Prison Kage, I and many other fans had a question when that was revealed. And it was, will you reveal what happened to Sakura in Prison Kage, of her ultimate fate? Or are we ever going to hear back from Sakura?
In Prison Kage, Sakurai knows how the general plot of Prison Kage works, the book which was used by Sakurai, and the main character in Prison Kage makes for each different maze and demons. So Sakura stays forever in her maze, where she did not select, so Sakurai in Prison Kage be bound only by the book. So yes, the ending in Demonophobia is the real end as Sakurai. So when you start a new game in Demonophobia, you start anew the torment of Sakurai.
That's what I and many other fans feared, that there is no escape for poor Sakura. I guess some like to hold on to hope, just like Sakura did, that someone will save her.
Everything is possible, or she can just give up and continue to sit in a small dark room. Not everyone can have a happy ending. Rich 2, for example, shows that not always can we trust someone. It's life.
Well, I can most certainly agree with you on that one, with that message. I've learned that lesson of learning that we can't always trust people the hard way on multiple occasions. Speaking of which, in the end of Demonophobia, after the fight with Ritz, he vanishes before revealing his real name. My question is, what was the true identity of Ritz, if he even had one at all?
Exile. But who knows if he lied again when he said his real name?
Do you have any other job that you do outside of video game development?
Yes, I have. There is work me same need to want something feed, so as with games, I nothing not receive and not despite receive. I'll say this, it's also related to programming. I think that's enough for you. Let's continue the interrogation.
As you wish. So, since all of your games are free, is making video games more of a hobby to you, or are you hoping this will blow up into a full career someday?
There is no this more as a hobby to example years after 2009, about me not was nor hearing not spirit, because I saw personal problems, and the rest of it is just so that I not am confident that this present is something more than a hobby.
Well, I would say don't be so doubtful. You are very talented, and Demonophobia was a success. People are very hyped for your future project. It might be a hobby now, but it could become so much more someday, Mr. 237. I see in my comments people saying that they are very hyped for Prison Kage. And in your own comments, people are dying to see Xenophobia get out of development hell. And I personally feel the same way for both Xenophobia and Prison Kage.
Who knows, my dear friend? This is an attractive gaming industry. And at the same time, the main thing is not to forget about yourself and in real life. So I cannot say anything you should not run ahead. Well, I already installed Windows XP on an old laptop, so a full version of Xenophobia is possible, but I can't give exact predictions.
Well, I'm confident that you are able to figure it out, and you are a very unique mind. We need unique minds like you now more than ever in this generation of creative bankruptcy and lazy participation award mentality. As I mentioned before, it would be a shame for your talents to be wasted.
Well, now there are a lot of developers who make games without any enthusiasm and put on them a lot of money, and none for the full game and for the beta version, unfortunately. I cannot understand it.
So true. It's quite tragic. And we may honestly never know the answer to what is going on with the video game industry right now, and this generation of just creative bankruptcy and unenthusiastic people that care much more about a fucking paycheck rather than actually creating something truly special. People can say what they want about your games, but you clearly have a vision and you clearly care about what you do, and there is a level of earnest authenticity that I've noticed with your game. Even with Splatter School, which I consider to be a very bad game, I can at least see that there is an attempt there to create something worthwhile. But I'm rambling at this point. Let's continue on with this. Now, in my review of Demonophobia, I called Ritz the main villain of the story. Would you say this is accurate, or is the butcher, who's named Lucifer in your game code, the actual main villain of the story?
In Demonophobia, all villains, even Sakura, after all, she herself has achieved more over the phone to hell, say, so she traveled there far it was supposed. No one is right, everyone was doing everything for their own good, like Sakura and Ritz. Everyone was trying to highlight their benefit for themselves, so there's no appropriate concept of a villain.
I see. So, in hell, there is no such concept as the good guy in your story. Only slightly less evil monsters.
In that world, there are no concepts at all. There is only blood, pain, and meat.
I and many others have noticed Demonophobia has a lot of similarities with I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and Clock Tower in terms of both narrative and design. Were these works inspiration for you? If not, what were some of your inspirations?
Only Clock Tower, and of course Silent Hill, as I said before. I played in them, and then they gave a small impetus to development. I myself cannot say exactly what I felt I myself in the Clock Tower. I fully saw and not as past.
Now, this is something I've been dying to ask for a long time. What were some of the software and engines that you used to create and program Demonophobia? Because there have been a lot of accusations that you created Demonophobia in MS Paint.
Demonophobia was made on the VA Game Maker, and drawn all in all drawings were made in Paint Torsai. And I immediately wanted to would say people would start says that here is Game Maker, so for many engine, and Paint Torsai was until Demonophobia. Find out about these programs a lot more than prevalent charges. In the beginning study their history of creation and then.
Now, there have been many theories that have come out by fans to try to answer some of the unanswered questions in Demonophobia, such as the theory that the shadows towards the end of the game are meant to represent us, the player. We are watching Sakura. Would you say that these theories are accurate?
They are close to the truth.
What's your opinion on the Puritans bashing the games you make for being too violent?
Each person has his own worldview, and I'm not going to say anything against them. They just want to show themselves right, and also I do not pay attention to such people. If they want, let them play. Do not want can go their own way. That's why I try to go against the rules. I'm not going to kneel in front of them and apologize, especially in our time. It's very difficult.
Oh my god, you have no idea how refreshing that is to hear. This is why I have such respect for you, Mr. 237. Not just because I find you to be very talented and I enjoy some of your games, but because you're not afraid to back down. We live in a generation of such overly sensitive little sissies, and everyone is afraid of offending each other, and just people feel the need to walk on eggshells around one another. And if you say anything taboo or controversial, then people just flip out and lose their shit. And there's always Puritans constantly bitching and trying to get people to just, oh, well, this game is too violent, this character is too sexy, we need more representation. And it's just so pathetic. And I respect that you are willing to put your foot down and not bow down to other people's sensibilities and stand up for what you believe in, which is so rare to see today. Now, with that being said, another question I've always had is, how do you feel about the reputation that you have gained over the years? Do you believe that it is fair to criticize you as a disgusting, perverted person because of the games that you make?
Come on, I feel like some big boss. Most of the criticism goes for the fact that people are not used to such cruel things. They used to sing only the usual things in games. Why they do not complain about shooters or games where you fight? Why they do not complain about the bottom? There's also killing, at least weapons fists. What difference but for them it is normal, but as in some little known game blood, all cruel game the worst in the world.
This is why I have always liked the way Harlan Ellison viewed violence, and why I brought him up in my review. We have this double standard when it comes to violence. Some is okay, others isn't. The reality is, violence is painful, it's brutal, it's bloody, and it kills people. When you lie about it, when you try to pretty up the reality of violence, then what do you think is going to happen? I believe that for these people, your depiction of violence shows them the reality of what it really is, and it makes them uncomfortable, as they should feel. Violence should always make us feel uncomfortable, no matter who it is happening to. There are some people out there that say the only reason why your video game is not okay compared to other violent video games is because you have a young schoolgirl protagonist, and somehow that makes it more unacceptable than a game like Hatred, where you literally play as a fucking mass shooter. It's absolutely ridiculous.
If people are always shown real life and reality, then just have the people go crazy. That's why there are so few games with real cruelty.
Very true. However, at the same time, it's not healthy for these people to be coddled from the reality of the cruelty of violence. Some will try to turn their heads and hide. Others acknowledge it for what it is. And I appreciate your works of art for what they are.
Full of fame and invented the game on Nintendo. Many people just play Nintendo. I think it creates the most harmless games. If people want, they play. If they don't want to, then they don't play.
Indeed. Moving on. Now, there are two themes I noticed in Demonophobia, was that of despair and hope, which led to me using those quotes in my review. Despair seems to represent reality, and hope seemed to represent that of lies. The main character using hope to help her push forward and run away from the reality of her circumstances. She seems to lie about her sins and would rather run on false hope. When she finally gave in to despair, she finally accepted the reality of things. Would you say this is an accurate interpretation of your story and the themes of your story?
That's however hides something, so never judge by looks. This little girl could be worse than Lucifer and the Ritz.
Interesting. I think that is what pulled me into your story, because I have met people like Sakura in real life, those who use lies or hope to run away from their problems rather than accepting them or confronting them. Despair is the price one pays for self-awareness. Look deeply into life and you'll always find despair. Losing your life is not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing is to lose your reason for living.
Say a truth.
That's what I loved about your story. The fact that there was a lot to speculate on. We know that the bosses were a manifestation of Sakura's sins, while we are not given the details of what she was like before she went to hell. We can speculate that she wasn't as innocent as she makes herself appear to be. I knew someone in my real life who was like that. She makes herself appear to be this sweet, innocent little victim, but in reality, when she shows her true colors, she is actually a monster, just like the monsters in your world.
Or as in Demonophobia. I'm kidding.
Well, thank you, Mr. 237, for your time, and I hope this interview can help people get a better idea of who you are. What a shock! The man who created Demonophobia is actually just a normal guy and not a raging psychopath who just wants to get off on watching little girls get tortured.
This is always the biggest mistake of people who think that everyone who creates something abnormal is considered psychopaths, crazy, etc. Look, don't get a heart attack from my games. In general, take care of yourself and your loved ones.
Very true. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this interview of the game Dev 237. If you are interested in learning more about this developer, I will leave links in the description to his social media. You can try to get in contact with him yourself. He is wanting to be more open with people and his fans, so feel free to send him a message. And I will also leave a link in the description to a website where you can play games if you're interested in playing his games. They are all 100% free. And with that, I will see you guys around next time.
She's like heroin, sipping through a little glass. I'm looking for some help, I need someone to save her ass. She wants nothing more but to be a little whore. He wants nothing less but to wear a little dress. She's like heroin, sipping through a little glass. I'm looking for some help, I need someone to save her ass. Chinese tricks and rooms with ghosts of hooker girly dudes. Me and heroin, maybe we can make some cash. She's like heroin, sipping through a little glass. I'm looking for some help, I need someone to save my ass.